Take a piece of tracing paper, find a piece of reference. Now the reference I'm showing you here is black and white. It's cheaper. If you've got a digital camera and you're taking a picture, make a black and white copy of it. Print it out just on your black and white because you're doing a value study anyways. In pencil, you want to see the different grades or shades of pencil, and take that object and find some of those basic shapes in there. So I will encourage you always to find a circle. Cylinders are easier to find in long things like legs, fingers, whatever it might be. But do a bunch of tracings over top of it and use those tracings to break down those objects into the basic shapes that are available. We're talking 3 or 4 shapes to begin with, so it shouldn't be that complex. Okay? I told you about the cone maybe at the end of this. And when you've got those basic shapes drawn and you see enough to get you started, you now see how I look at the world. This is what I see when I look at a person, an animal, a building or whatever, a breakdown into basic shapes. You're not going to run around for the rest of your life with tracing paper and asking people to hold still while you trace their outline or basic shapes off of them. But I want you to understand that this is how you have to see something. If a cat's lying down or a bird plops down on a piece of concrete next to you, you want to know that there's a few shapes involved in getting that bird's anatomy, and that bird's going to fly away. He's going to be gone. But you can then start saying, okay, now I remember that, or each successive pose or that bird comes in and gives you a little bit more information. You can take and develop those poses, putting the eyes where they belong. And there's a lot of times I've heard people say they have a photographic memory. I'm talking artists especially. And then I see that they'll put the eyes in the wrong spot or the beak in the wrong spot. They've got enough information quickly, but they just don't have it in the right spot. What I'm hoping you'll do is start zeroing in and saying, oh, this bird has this, depending on whether it has long legs or I don't know which bird I'm thinking. So, that could become a bird recognizable to someone who knows their birds. The simplicity of seeing a pose and being able to turn it is what I'm getting at. So take lots of reference, put them in black and white form, because that's all you need, and start taking a piece of tracing paper and tracing out some of those obvious shapes. I will take a circle, and even though that circle doesn't fit entirely that head has a little bit more width to it, I want to make sure that the eye is located in that circle. If I have that done, I'm laughing, okay? In this case, this bird has a beak that's long, okay? You could think of a cone shape, and that's what I'm trying to break that down to. In front of it might be a triangle. Don't ignore those things if they help you, but in my mind right now, I'm thinking as a teacher that I want to see where that beak's going to line up in relation to the center of that circle. It's no good if I didn't intend it to have the beak pointing in some other direction if I know it points at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in this case. So at 8 o'clock is where that line's running out. Again, I'm trying to free you from the pressures of numbers, except I guess 8 is a number. Instead of angles and degrees, I want you to think of just something that simplifies it. Okay? In the neck itself, I want it dimensional. If I thought of it just as a square, that's still flat. I don't feel the roundness of it. So by turning it into the cylinder, I'm getting a feeling of roundness. When I think of round, and again, like the head almost, I'd rather work with a circle. A circle's a lot easier to replicate. You can figure out if you screwed up a circle pretty quickly by rotating it a few degrees or 90 degrees or 180. And you'll see if you've skewed it a little bit. But a circle has to be round. You can use templates if you have to. I do have students who rely on that. But they're a little nervous. And I keep telling them, if you can't draw a circle, think of a square. Square fits around a circle. So if you're not sure, if you've got some problem with your eyesight stigmatism or your glasses distorted or whatever is going to happen, think about a square and put a circle in there. If it fits comfortably inside of a square, 4 equal sides, then you've got a circle. And the reason I use a circle again is so that I can do things like finding that center point and bringing those legs off of that center point. Okay, so I know that these cylinders, which will end up articulating at a joint, and I'll usually put a circle in the joints, will join another cylinder. Okay. So if there's extra areas like this here, shoulder, I could turn it into a cone, or a cut-off cone, or leave it as a triangle. Similarly with the tail of this particular bird. I could break it down into the patterns that are underneath its wing feathers, which are here and here, or its tail feathers. But I'm going to remove the drawing, or the reference material, and let you see the blocked-in drawing. Okay? So to give it dimension, we can break it down into those shapes. This is how I see my world, in a bunch of blocks and shapes and cylinders and whatever else. So if you're ever meeting me in person, that's probably what I'm thinking about, how everything's lined up on your face and on your body. Okay. I was never very good at math, and actually am to this day not very good. But I think with my students that there's something I can show them, and that's to take a circle, like I'm doing right now, and make it into an easier thing to work with. If you know you can cut it in half and section it up into basic pie sections, if you want to call it. But if you put a mark here and a mark here and a mark here, and repeat it on the other side, you'll find that you've simplified your drawing a little bit more if you think of it as hands of a clock, and you think of this being 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2, 3, and so on. And what will happen is you'll be able to find sometimes, if you use a circle in every head you draw, for example, you'll be able not only to position the eyes in this example in a particular quadrant, but you'll even be able to figure out angles a little easier, so that you're not going to always be using tracing paper, and I hope you realize that. But when you are looking at something, you'll be able to turn your pencil or brush or whatever you're using and calculate angles in your mind, but that will help you translate it onto the two-dimensional form you're working on. Whether it's a board, canvas, paper, whatever you end up working on, you've simplified it, which is the whole point of art, and that's what I'm trying to show you here.